You're
Honestly,
you're a timekeeper.
Someone's getting fired for this. Joanne's getting sacked for this for me telling her the wrong time.
Right, we're on, bro. We're on. Yeah. Apologies to anybody who was waiting for the 6 p.m. and then the early schedule.
That's my fault.
My fault. We had a bit of a technical error, didn't we, Steve?
Yeah, we had a technical error. Yeah, you told me the wrong time.
Right, now I'm going to tell the truth. Joe, Steve's probably one of the best timekeepers I know. Like, Steve's always early, and then for this podcast, we got.
And I'd listen, and I would have been early for the time that I had it.
Oh, would you?
Yeah. That's what I said today. I said when I messaged you, I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to get there for 7:30 to get set up."
I know. Yeah, I should have double checked, shouldn't I?
Is this light terrible? Is it flickering on yours?
Mine's all right, my side, but you can mess about with yours, bro. Oh, that's better, mate. Love the setup. Yeah, I like the setup, mate. I like the setup. Anyway, bro, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm good. I'm busy. Busy as in, yeah. We're just busy, mate. It's that our industry in particular has thrived, and yeah, too much work, not enough staff. They've got all the first world problems that go with that what we do. Yeah, but I'm good, mate. But things are really, really good. I certainly can't complain.
So, dude, you dropped me I'm going to put you on the spot here, dude. You dropped me a video a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Do you remember which one it was?
So if you're asking me, I'm now 23 days, no booze, no fags.
Good man. Dude, what brought you to that decision to not booze on the head for a bit? Because we'll get into this, but it's something you've tried to give up before, right? Or do in moderation, rather, should I say?
Yeah. So you've known me for probably best 9 or 4 years. So I was, and for a very, very long time, it was just part of my character and part of who I was. I was Big Steve. I was always the one, first in the pub, last out the pub, always up for a laugh. And that kind of defines you for a little bit. And I always, I've got my shit together in my life in every way, apart from getting a handle on my weight. Now that the best kind of, the best kind of shape I've been in was when I was in DX, believe it or not. And that I know. Well, listen, it goes through, it's gone through phases, and so the phases generally, the best results I see are when I'm not drinking. So, but bear in mind, I would be drinking, with no exaggeration to say, there would probably be a day in the year that I wouldn't drink, and it was probably if I was ill. So I would drink, best part of 365 days a year. Varying from that might just be a couple of pints after work on a Monday to 20 pints on a Friday or Saturday. And that was just what I did, and it was just part of the culture and and I used to say things like, because I've obviously, and I'm sure we're going to talk about, I've managed to give up some other vices in my life. And I used to be like, listen, you've took me fags, you've took me fun, you've took me drugs, fucking leave my drink alone. Yeah, it's mine and I'm having it, and you can all fuck off, the lot of you. And it was always masked with humour. But 2020, when we went into lockdown, I made it I joined an accountability group with a couple of guys that are in DX now, Graham and a couple of others. And it was actually Graham Richardson, who we were sat at a table at a quarterly December before, and he said, we were just talking, we laugh about this now, and he says to me, oh, I give up drinking for a year, he said, it's easy. And I was like, who the fuck's this dickhead? Why would you come out with something like that, as if? Yeah, and we joke about that, but then what happened was that started up a conversation. And I had so much resistance to the even thought of giving up drinking. I was like, well, I don't want to. I was avoiding him. And then, anyway, he kind of tracked me down. He was like, listen, we're going to set up a WhatsApp group. We're going to do this quarter with no booze. It's like, right, okay. So, up for a challenge. So, anyway, long story short is 2020, because we're in lockdown, it was easier because it's very much a social thing for me. So I love being out with the lads. You know, you know yourself, when we have our meetups for in our coaching program, I love that, being around people, and I just always associate the two together. So when we were in lockdown, it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be, because there is a level of alcoholism. You know, I used to joke and say, I'm not an alcoholic because alcoholics go to meetings. I'm a drunk. Yeah. So, but there was a level of alcoholism there because, you know, I didn't think I could do a week without a drink. So it was a challenge for me. Did some sustained periods of time. So I would allow them myself, say 85 days out of 90 without a drink. So, but that would give me 5 days through that quarter to have a drink. So it might be every other weekend, or the fact remains that all my bad decisions and all my bad choices are made. Food choices, everything. You know, we've spoke about this calorie deficit thing. I can easily stay within a calorie deficit with food, and then I would add 15 cans of cider to the mix, and it just and then a kebab, and then, you know, some chocolate, or, you know, I knew what the problem was, but I just wasn't ready to stop doing it.
So what have you learned in, I know it's only a short period, but 23 days is some going for somebody who's drunk, like, for most days of their life. Now you've gone 23 days again. I know you've had your periods without it, but what would you say you've learned, and what's the biggest difference, man? Like, how do you generally, like, feel? Like, what is the difference, if it's been flagged up yet?
So just kind of out, and this is going to sound fucking horrendous. So just how reactive I am with the kids, really. Well, not just the kids, the staff, you know, my wife, just everyone. I just, you know, I once said to Paul, I was like, I don't get hangovers, and he was like, you've just forgot what feeling good feels like. So although I wouldn't wake up with like a banging head or anything like that, I would just be, you just know. So I didn't know, because it was just normal to me. That's how I thought everyone felt. That was just normal, and then stopping it for a little bit has been like, well, actually, wow, this is, you know, this is, you know, energy levels. And, you know, when the kids ask me to do something, instead of me fobbing them off, oh, no, just go and play, go and watch your tablets. You know, Dad, will you take us out on our bike? Yeah, of course I will, son, no problem. So that, and you know, and they got a little taste of that. The problem is they got a little bit of a taste of that during 2020, because there was some long periods of time that I did. And obviously, I think in 2020, I think I had a drink somewhere around about 35 days of 2020. I had a beer. So they got a lot of time with me, and then we kind of hit, you know, what we all thought was going to be freedom year. You know, we actually hit Christmas of 2020, and I drank every day from kind of the works Christmas party, which I threw for the staff. I think I was drunk from then till the 3rd of Jan. So like for a month, I was just drunk. And then it just spiraled from there. My weight as well fluctuates really quickly. So, I mean, it's at the high end anyway, as you know, but I could literally, it could take me, say, 3 months to get down to, and really people start to notice. I can still feel it in my training, and then if I go on a bender for a week, it's back. I can put 3 stone on in a fortnight, easy.
So you've now decided that that's it. Like, booze is done. I'm finished with that for the foreseeable future. It's gone.
Yeah.
Was it surely? Like, I always think, because I think about that challenge. You know, the 1 year no beer, and I don't drink that much, but the thought of it's quite intimidating. Like, I think
So I'll tell you what happened. Now we met up. We had an unofficial meetup with my accountability group, which is Chris Shear, Mark McPake, Matt Brinley, Crawford. And we met up in Harrogate, 22 days ago. And Matt had been doing. He'd done some time, and he'd had what we always used to do is we'd go, when we were doing no booze, we'd go, right, we won't have any more booze till we meet in the quarterly, and then when we meet, we can all go out and we can have a good time. And what had happened is I'd go, well, I'm going to do the quarterly, and I've got a family barbecue on the 15th, so I'm going to do that. And then what had happened is on the 14th, because I was going out on the 15th, I'd have a drink on the 14th, then a drink on the 16th, like either side of it, a drink the night before my holiday, drink the night before the quarterly, and it just used to creep back in. So Matt turned up, and Matt loves a drink and a socialise, and we went to me and Matt were already at the hotel, and we were sat, we had a couple of beers, And Matt walked in and ordered a bottle of water, and I was like, "Oh, hello." And so I said, "Listen, so it's not a thing. Obviously, we'll get the name calling out the way and the wind ups. Are you drinking?" And he was like, "I'm going to try not to." And I was like, "Well, fair play to you." But he wasn't actually that polite. We give him some shit, and we'd agreed that we would go to this kind of meeting, and I was thinking this was going to be like a piss up weekend, basically. It's unofficial. There's no kind of physical side of it. We were just going to go on the piss. So on the Saturday morning, we get up and on the Sunday morning, we stayed Saturday and Sunday night. So on we got up and trained Saturday morning. We went down to the gym in the hotel. We trained, and then we went and sat in this. There was this like big room, and we sat in there for 8 hours, and we decided we would be honest with each other. So I had my journal. So bear in mind, I was supposed to be doing 85 out of 90 days no booze. So the box that says what could you have handled better today said booze. The day after said booze. The day after said booze. The day after said. I was like, listen, there's no point in me lying. I'm back. It's exactly how it was before. I'm not doing what I said I would, and I think this is the problem, and they were ruthless. And I thought I was just going to get away with kind of going, so, I'll address it. And the same old story, making a few empty promises. And they just went in on me, and they went in on me, and they went in on me until the end. I was just in floods of tears. And I was, I was like, I always mask it with humor, but my weight and my appearance is uncomfortable, and it's embarrassing. And it was difficult. It was difficult for me to kind of admit that, and because so I kind of bulldozed my way through the room and through the crowd, but they just were relentless. And then we started talking about, and it went from being something I thought about to talking about, walking my daughter down the aisle, and I was like, wow, what are you talking about? And at the end of the day, I'm 12 stone overweight. Well, according to my BMI, I'm probably not 12 stone overweight. But I'm certainly significantly overweight. I was smoking, drinking, not in the bed. I train and I show up to train 5 days a week, but you can't out train. You know this. You can't out train a bad diet, and I kept trying to swear. I kept trying to make it about the food, and they kept bringing it back to the beer, and I was like, "Fuck off with that. Leave my beer alone." And we went out that night, and we went to a club, and it was full of fucking kids and plastic fucking gangsters. And I sat there thinking, do you know what? Maybe it's just time.
Yeah.
And we hadn't kind of announced this, and I got up in the morning, and I was like, the only way I can do this is to say, fucking that is it. I said, but the problem I've got is, I'm like, well, we've got a quarterly on the 1st of October, so should we do it after that? No, because then we've got Paul's live event on the 29th of October. Should we do it after that? Actually, we've got the Christmas party. Then I've got Ibiza in April on a stag do, 30 of us. And then I'm taking my dad to Vegas in May. And I'm like, how does that look without a drink? And then they started to kind of go, well, I said, how does Christmas, the thought of Christmas with, the thing for me, Alex, is, and this is what we delved into, I've always associated drinking with happy times. So every family event, my mum, my dad, all the family were big drinkers. We'd go around to my grand's. There'd be a big fucking white doily on the table full of bottles, and all the kind of happy memories in my life have revolved around everyone being fucking smashed.
Yeah,
it's just been kind of part of who I am. And so, and listen, I've had some horrendous resistance off people who are family members about this. Some, and listen, we know they're doing their best with what they've got, but it's kind of helped me. It's really hard to explain, but I feel like this has been the only way I could have done it, and I honestly feel like I'm going to do it. I feel like I'm going to go to Ibiza on a stag do with 30 lads and drink water. Yeah, and that's for real.
I know what you mean. I think there'll be a lot of people who are listening to this going, yeah, I can't imagine my birthday without a drink either, or my Christmas. Mate, I can't. I don't drink that much, but Christmas is about food, drink, and family. That's what we do. But I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase, Steve, where it says like the problem is always the goal. So Jordan Peterson says this: is, you know, if you highlight your biggest problems and look at them, so that you know yours was booze, you're like, that has to become the goal, which is exactly what you've made it, mate. I don't think there's many guys out there that would sit there with a journal, work through this stuff, keep bringing it to the front, and then actually get a handle on it, because you've obviously done that with other vices as well, right?
Oh, mate, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, those were kind of. This was always kind of a. You know, I think they're all connected as well. I've never been out and scored sober. You know, in like years ago, obviously when it was a different kind of habit, but you know, when it into once I kind of, we'll call it, grew up a bit, I was still, you know, dabbling, having a sniff every now and again, and that was always around being pissed. And then once I kind of got into that state, I would then be like, well, I can't go home because she's going to know, so I would fuck off, and it'd be like, you know, I have a family and kids and fucking. Like, you're a grown man and you're fucking disappearing, and you know, like a fucking deviant, and it was all a bait, you know. And I keep having these little moments of, you know, every fight, every bit of trouble, everything that we've ever done that's been ridiculous. Smashed my mother-in-law's kitchen up once, completely blacked out. Smashed the house up with them. I don't know. They put me up. I was sleeping in my car at the time. And they put me up. I'd only just got with her. Went back to her house. We had a row, and I smashed the house up. Her mum's house. It's like, you know, come on. When I look at my behaviour now going on, that kind of drunk doesn't happen anymore. But there are still, when I've had a drink, and sometimes if me and Kaz will have words, or I come in work, something's going on, I can hear the way it's almost like watching myself. And my behaviour is fucking disgusting. I'm aggressive, and I'm in a face, and it's like, you know, not because I'm trying to scare her, just because I'm fucking, and it comes, and I never used to be that kind of drunk. So when I'd had a drink, I used to be playful, and you know, I was a happy drunk, and more recently it's become less and less so. So, and I'm honestly, and I went for a walk on Sunday with a friend of mine, because obviously we don't go for a drink anymore. And he was like, and that's one kind of thing that really has shone through it. So this is a lad I would normally go meet once a month for a drink. And he was like, well, if we're not going to go for a drink, you know, let's at least still meet up and go for a walk. So that's what we did. And he was like, you know, what's brought it on? Like, your life, and people, do you know that when I've told people what's happened is, I can tell the immediate response is, well, how's this going to affect me and my time with you? You know, and he was like, oh, and when I first told one, he was like, well, what about when I get married? I'm best man at his wedding. I was like, well, can I not be best man at your wedding if I'm not pissed? And the first night, we went out to arrange the stag do and talk about some stuff, and it was the first, we'd stopped drinking on that weekend, and this was on the Thursday. And I was going to cancel. And then my stepdad said to me, the thing with you is this. I said, I'll have to remove myself from some social occasions to start with. Like, I didn't go out for the football, but I don't want to cut myself off completely, because then I'll feel like I'm being punished, and that's when it's gonna go. And my stepdad was like, you can be just as good a company, you know, without a drink. You know, you're not shy. You still put the life and soul of the party. You still need to make sure that you're going out and meeting the lads and enjoying yourself, and just have, you know, alcohol-free beer. So I went out on this Thursday, and he'd come up, my mate, he lives about 60 miles away, and he'd come up to stay at his mum's because we were going to go out and go for a Chinese and have a beer. And he was really offended that I was stood basically saying to him, listen, the other thing, guys, I know it could very easily get a grip of me. That makes sense?
Yep.
If I'm ever having, you know, what I would consider dark thoughts, probably not what other people consider dark thoughts, it would stem from the booze. And that's how I sold it. And I was like, listen, there's a time, it's just come that time where I need to have control of it, not the other way around. And he was like really fucking upset. And I was like, well, I don't understand why you're so fucking. And he had a little strop. And I said, listen, let's go out. Let's still do what we were planning. We had the Chinese. We're like, right, what we're doing now? I said, well, we'll go back to the pub. That's what you like to do. So we go back. I has a few alcohol-free beers. By this point, he's smashed. That's been an eye-opener, watching everyone else drunk when you're not. And, I made the point of staying out. So I was like, do you want another drink? Do you want another drink? I was drinking these fucking alcohol-free things. And at the end of the night, I said to him, let me ask you something. I said, has it made any difference to your night whatsoever that I've not been pissed? And he just went, yeah, I can have a lift home. I was like, well, there you go.
Yeah, well, you know what they say about change, man. Like it's hard for you, but it's harder. It's going to be harder for the people around you. Yeah, I get that. But again, I think if we weren't ready to give up the booze, it was our best mate giving it up. I think, if I'm totally honest, I wouldn't like it either.
No,
I wouldn't like it either. I wonder how many of your friends you're going to lose. I wonder how many friends people lose when they knock something like drugs or booze on the head.
Well, I had to completely change. I removed myself from a whole area at when I gave the drugs up, and I tell you, it's almost like these things kind of dropped into place, because what happened was during lockdown, Kaz was it affected Caroline quite badly, and she was a real stickler for the rules, and it was, everything was done to the book, and we had friends that were still meeting up in secret and having parties, and it caused this real divide. And I remember dropped in the group at one point, and I was like, I'm gonna have to turn my back on quite a lot of people here who I thought were my friends, who aren't my fucking friends. They've been talking shit. I fell out with a couple of them, and kind of this realization, and this is what I said to Matt on Sunday when I went for this walk, and I was like, we were talking about another lad who we know, and he said, oh, you're going to his birthday, he's 40, and I went, I'm not going to go. I said, I haven't seen him for 18 months, never made any effort during lockdown, neither of us did. It's just not my type of person anymore. And I was like, and you know what, that's okay. I think we have to, I'm probably on my fourth main group of friends since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I think we put this thing on it, and I was like, of all the people I met when I moved up where I'm living now, which is where Kaz is from, up in Brocklehusrt, I met this group of people. Her mum and dad ran a pub, so I met this group of people in that pub, and I said, they became I was kind of the outsider. They became my group of friends, but now, as we kind of grow ourselves, so that was 16 years ago. So now, the only two I'm really close to are successful business owners. And I'm not close to them because they're successful business owners, but we just have things to talk about and things in common that I don't, like this lad who's 40, he's doing a superheroes fancy dress party, and it'll be, the Jaeger train. And that's great, crack on. But I'm like, come on. So what I'm trying to say is, I think I'm just getting fucking old. I think I'm just old.
Yeah, I think you get less and less friends as you get older, don't you? Say your social circle becomes smaller and smaller. I'm finding.
I thought and then I'll meet up with the guys. I will come to come and meet you guys, and I'm like, these are my people now. These are my. And that sounds really far fetched, but I'm like, I get so much from a fucking 20-minute conversation with you, and then I go out and sit with these people I've known for 16 years, and I'm looking and thinking, who the fuck are you people? So honestly, it was getting to the point where, I'm not very tactful, as you know, and I'm like, this one lad, and he starts telling me something, and I'm like, is this a long story? Because I can't be arsed listening to you. And Kaz is like, what are you doing? We can't speak to people like, and I'm like, my tolerance for, and again, but this was because I was pissed, you see. Like, that's just rude. The way I would treat you, and she'd say we'd be out and someone would be talking, you just turn around and walk off. She'd be like, I'm apologising for you, and I'm like, yeah, I don't even know I'm doing it. So my behaviour just started to be, not great. And like you say, I think it's almost like when we look back on our lives, you can I can segment my life into kind of your school life, and then this section of your life, and this section of your life. And I think this is just the start of the next part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said at the start was interesting. I think every guy listening to this will probably look back and look at all their shit decisions, and the majority of them will have come from places of being pissed. Like, you know, if you're going to cheat on your partner, it's more likely to be happening when you're drunk than when you're sober, right? And again, I think that's when we have to start looking at those and start questioning whether it's worth it. Because yeah, too much of what we love will ultimately destroy us in the end. I think booze happens a lot. In fact, I heard this thing. It was interesting the other day. They said booze is the only drug where like you're the fucking weirdo if you're not taking it.
Well,
it's true though, right? It's like you're in the minority all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I think, and the problem for me, Al, is this: I'm still like now. I can be sat there and think, "Oh, this is happening." Then I go, "Oh, fucking hell, I'm not drinking." And I'm at the point now where I just can't associate a good time. Like the first thing Joanne in the office said to me, she was like, "What about the works party? Like what everyone looks forward to." Yeah, and I was like, "What about it?" She was like, "Well, we're not having one." And I was like, "Well, we can still have one. You know, but we'll go for a meal instead of just going on the lash. You know, last year, because we couldn't do one, I set 2 big marquees up here in the yard, got a big fire going, we had a sound system on, and just invited everyone here. It was probably the best works do we had, but it was because everyone was fucking mullered.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm still gonna struggle to associate having a good time.
No, I understand.
My own mum said to me, she said, "Oh, you're just going to turn into a fucking miserable bastard now, then, aren't you?" And I was like, "What? Wow!" So I've just sat here and told you I'm doing it for my health and for my kids. And you said I could tell in her face, and I knew she'd be the hardest conversation to have. And I was like, she was fucking disgusted with me. How dare you?
I can see this being a bit like, you know, when someone's trying to get in shape and they feel like they've got so much to do, so they don't start. So they've got to tidy up their diet, they've got to exercise, they've got to get their steps in, they've got to get their sleep right. And what you've just described sounds like, even I'm thinking, fuck, that's a lot to miss out on. I think this is going to be a classic case of like, let's just focus on today, right?
Well, listen, what I said to when I made, because none of them were trying to. What I'd said is this: what I would like to be in my mind. This is what I'd like to be. I'd like to be the guy that is a non-drinker. So if anyone asks you, I'm a non-drinker. My wife would probably have a drink twice a year. So she wasn't a non-drinker, but she never drank. She'd never like have half a lager. She'd never drink if we went anywhere. She would have, if we went to a wedding, say, or maybe on her birthday, she would have a drink. She wouldn't have a drink at Christmas dinner. She just wasn't interested in having a bit of a drink. She was brought up in a pub as well. That's, you know, and her sisters don't drink either. They've associated alcohol with problems, you see, abuse and fucking trouble, and you know, they missed every Christmas day because the mum and dad were working, and they just, you know, and then she had a bit of a party at the house for her birthday, had a couple of drinks, and ended up in hospital. She was really, really poorly. So she just said, she went, "Would you be massively offended if I just give up drinking?" And I was like, "It's not making a difference to me." I just said what he said, taxi driver. So that's made it easier for me. But I said I would like to be the person that could, so like, go to my mate's wedding and have a couple of beers at the wedding, and then that's it. And then I'm not a drinker again. But the way I was being, it would have been, well, I'll have a drink the night before, like I said, and now his wedding is in the stag do's first, which is in April, and I said to him, I can't start to try and think about going to Ibiza and having a drink, and I'm with my brother lives in Vegas, and my dad, we're flying. Me and my dad, I'm surprised. I'm going to surprise him. I'm going to fly in business class to Vegas in May. It's booked to see my brother, and you know, for me, I'm like, we're flying business class, so that's free beer on the plane. But my dad's whole life has revolved. I mean, he had some issues with his liver, but he was a big drinker, my dad, and he loves a beer. That's his life. You know, he's like, let's go for a beer. You know, and so I can't start to wrap my head around that yet. So what I said to the lads was, this is what I'm gonna do. If anyone asks, I've gone sober, because that's the only way So when I was trying to do this time of, I'll only do X amount of days, then I'd go to my dad's on a hot day and he'd be like, yeah, son, I've poured you a drink. I'd go up, pick the kids up, and he'd already poured me a cold beer. It's in a frosted glass, with. So I'd be like, yeah, go on, I'll have it. So I said that the only way I'm going to get the support that I need is to tell everyone I'm done, I'm sober. Make a big song and dance out of it, which is what I've done. And that's helped me. Now, am I going to never have a drink again in my life? Who knows? But what I've said is this. At the moment, the only decision I've got to make is whether I have a drink when I go to Ibiza on the 13th of April. So that's a long time away. And what we said is the compound effect of not having a drink between now and then, and the weight loss and the energy and everything else, the chances are I won't want to have a drink.
Did COVID change anything for you in terms of health? Like what you feel about your weight and?
Do you know what? I've been overweight for so long, and I've been okay with it. And I've joked before, and I've always, like I said, like my brother jokes with me now. So I train kickboxing 3 times a week. I go to the gym 3 times a week. We go 5K, 10K walks. I did the breakpoint thing. I did. Dave Watson did a limitless thing. We did an 11-mile hike up the Mendips. And I get, and I'm best part of 26, 27 stone. So I've got a smoking hot wife. I say, I'm trying to choose my words. I say it doesn't affect my life. I'm not in enough, what Marty once said to me was, you're not in enough pain to do anything about it. And that's what the lads really dipped into. And then, we went back to being at school, and being the fat kid at school and getting left out and getting left behind on the bike rides and all this stuff came out. And I was like, so what I did was, I just started to mask that with aggression, and it was either humour, and if humour didn't work, then it was aggression. And that's how I've kind of bulldozed my way through life. So, and it just became part of who I am. And so, yeah, when COVID happened, but even then I was like, yeah, I'll just go and get jabbed. I get to have my jabs early, brilliant. Made a joke of it again. Listen, the fact remains, I actually seriously say to my wife sometimes, my wife's 5 foot, and like she's like that, and I'm like, you can't be physically attracted to me, and she's like, of course I am. It's like, you're a chubby chaser. That's your problem. And listen again. So there you go again. Made a joke of it, but it's never been enough because I've never been. I'm not sat rocking in my chair with with no wife, no kids, no job, no business, no friends. So it's always just I suppose in my mind it's kind of served me or not served me being the size I am, and I just.
You could argue that that's the scary reason. That's where the fear should come from.
Do you know what the scary thing is? When I met my wife, I was 18 stone, right? And my dad said to me, if you're not careful the way you eat and drink, you'll be 20 stone. And I was like, no chance. And then I got to 20 stone. And he was like, what do you weigh now? I was like, 20 stone. He was like, if you're not careful, you'll be 22 stone. I was like, nah. And then I was 25 stone. And then I was 26 stone. And at my heaviest, I was about 4 pounds off 30 stone. Yeah. And I've got pictures. And then what I would do is I would catch a glimpse of myself in a mirror or on a photograph, and I'd be like, fuck, you're a fucking tip. What are you doing? And that'd be it. I fucking crack a can open. And I don't know whether psychological, Chris Tibbetts talks about, emotional eating. And that's the first time I've ever kind of heard anyone, how he speaks about it, describe it as that. And I'm like, unless you get to the kind of root of it, because I've said this to you, I think on numerous occasions, is, I consider myself to be, I haven't made always intelligent decisions in my life, but I consider myself to be quite intelligent, and I know how to lose weight. And I'm not the person sat here going, oh, I can't understand why I'm this big. I just don't get it. Well, I know exactly why. Because if you consume 10,000 calories a day in alcohol and shit food, doesn't matter how many fucking times you go to the gym.
Yeah, I don't think strategy matters either here. I think when emotion rules and you've got those emotional habits and emotional eating, emotional drinking, whatever it is, unless they're addressed, yeah, strategy goes out the window, right? Discipline
Yeah.
and they all go out the window. So I think from the experience I've got of working with guys, the people who do the best in terms of like goal achievement, and again, this probably goes a bit deeper than goal achievement, but when people are running away from something, so there's some pain and some fear. So like, let's just say you losing the kids and the wife because your health deteriorates and, you know, through whatever. And then if you can have a bit of that around you and then something to chase as well. So not only are you running away from something, but you're running towards something. So you've got the fear kicking you up the arse, and then you've got the, you know, the pleasure, the ambition, the challenge ahead of you.
Yeah.
So like, where's that line for you now with this, like the concept of booze being out of your life? You've
Well,
freed up time, finance. What do you feel that for?
so the other thing is, Al, is the other thing was, so we, my wife works. We both work we work more than full time, both of us. We're busy. We have busy lives, and we use that as a really cool fucking story. So we might eat out 3-4 times a week, and then fill the voids with takeaways for convenience and there was more to it than just the booze. It was kind of a whole lifestyle thing, and Caroline made this quite difficult again because there's now two, and she can fill a face so while we were away, we agreed that the way to, and she kind of she would go, if I confronted her on what I thought her part in it was, we would end up having a big row. And I had to get that side of it dealt with. So I wrote her a letter. So we agreed that, he said, one of the lads said, write her a letter and get your feelings out. All this stuff that we've just seen and this emotion that we've seen and how important it is to you now to get a grip on this is, she's probably never seen this because you've never shown her this side of vulnerable side to you because you've played protector and, you don't want her to see this sort of. So I wrote her a letter and so we've set some kind of goals together now. It feels like for the first time we're kind of on board together. The no booze is such a massive thing for me. It's kind of, that's the whole thing. It's that, so what you're talking about is the no booze is connected to all of it. So trying to get to these next steps. I'm currently just kind of gaining some momentum in my property investment journey. And I need to be on fucking point. When we did that hot pen thing,
yeah,
the 3-year plan.
Yeah.
That guy can't be the guy that's fucking can't get out of the chair and he's pissed out of his head all the time. So I've replaced it with the ambition of hitting these. I made a declaration to you probably 12 months ago when we did 12-month plans and said to you, I'll be the fucking guy hitting all these. Fucking dream on, mate. Fucking words. Just words, mate. And do you know, at the time, I believed it.
And
then a month goes by and then, listen, I've achieved some, like I've said to you, the other areas of my life have gone through the stratosphere. The one thing that's left for me to get my shit together with is my weight, but that's connected to the booze without a shadow of a doubt.
Do you notice the same patterns then? So, for example, drug addiction is something that you've beaten, right? So is this the same thing where, like, this thing tears your life apart, it destroys you, you let it hang around for a bit, you beat it, and now it's on to the next thing? Was the drug pattern the same?
The drug pattern was very, very different because it was deviant behavior, mate. So the whole, so the when I was kind of late teens, early 20s, I was my nickname was Steve Idiot. That was my fucking net. People used to call me that, and I was the guy that if there was new E's to be tried, I'd have to, and I would be the clown. I would sniff the most, eat the most, smoke the most, and it was basically, you put it in front of me, I'll take it, and then I was introduced to crack cocaine, and fucking, it was like I struggle to even talk about it because if I talk about it for a sustained amount of time, if I see it on the telly, I just want to go out and get some. I'm not sure if anyone watching or I don't know what anyone's experience of it is, if they ever experienced it. And I say to people, don't ever fucking try it, because it's the best thing you'll ever do in your life. At that 5 seconds is what about the hit about last, the initial hit. It's the best thing ever. And when I found that, fucking everything else just paled into insignificance. And that took, I was disowned by my family. I was homeless for a while. I was sleeping in my car. I was sleeping in my van. I was couch surfing. Basically, everyone around me, I was stealing off people. I was vile. My behavior, I do things now. I do a lot of work with charities, and my brother jokes and he goes, it'll never be enough. Whatever you're doing is never going to be enough to make up for how you behaved and what you did. So fucking just stop. You don't need, it is what it is. Accept it. It's in the past. And that was very, I basically, when I hit rock bottom, I knew I had to act on that. And although I was kind of disowned by my family, if you like, my dad come and found me. And, and basically gradually I managed to kick that. But I kicked that. So that was kind of very much, I could be holed up in Manchester City Centre in flats and subways and fucking, honestly, mate, if you'd have seen some of the places that we went and that we were, crack dens, that's what they were. You didn't know, give a fuck, and then that, this is going to sound really stupid, but I knew the only way to wean myself off crack would be to start sniffing coke again. So that's what I did. I replaced the crack with the coke, and I eventually kind of, and the only other thing is, so the only time I've never worked in my life was when I was kind of this short period when I was kind of really addicted to the crack. But other than that, even through all my habits, because I had quite a bad cocaine habit previous and after that, I've always kind of been functioning because I've always worked. So because I had my trades, I could always kind of find work agency. I could find work with, builders and friends who I know, sparking companies. And so I always worked. And so I was a functioning drug addict. I've been to rehab centres. I've been to rehab that I was assigned by the police when I've been arrested. And the only thing that actually snapped me out of it fully was meeting my wife. I was talking about this when my mum came the night. So I ended up owing some quite serious people quite a lot of money. My mum and dad bailed me out, and then disowned me. I ended up getting in. That didn't stop me. I ended up getting in with so I was just taking the piss. I was just taking drugs off people and then just not paying. Taking big amounts of drugs off people and then saying, because I was involved with some quite serious people as well, and I thought that was enough that I could just take the piss out of people. I ended up with my front door got kicked in. A lot of lads came in, CS gassed me, set about me with baseball bats, broken ribs, torn knee cartilage, smashed ankles. That didn't stop me. I was stabbed. That didn't stop me. It was just a culture of, there was that drug culture and that culture of being around them people. And then I'd come up here. I had nowhere to stay, and we had to get off for a little bit. And so I lived in a place called Denton, which is just outside Manchester City Centre. And where I live now is only like 10 miles up the road into like just at the bottom of the like the Snake Pass before you go over the kind of the Pennines. So it's a little bit more rural, and it was like we thought we were getting out of the way. And at that point, I went in a pub and met my wife. She was working behind the bar, and I was, full of confidence and fucking powder, and we got chatting. And what happened was she was very much a straight member, and our relationship kind of started to progress. And then one night we were out, and I just pulled a bag of coke out and like tipped it on the table, and she was like, "Nah." She just got up and walked out. Anyway, she was like, we got chatting couple of days after, and I was like, you know, where's this going? And she was like, well, I'm telling you now, it's going nowhere while you're doing that. So if that's the life you want to lead, that's fine. That's up to you. But I'm not having any part of it. I can't be around that and the stuff that you're involved in. And so that's a choice. Still at that point, I was like, you can fucking tell me what to do. I'm not being fucking told what to do. And then 5th of Feb, 2006, there was an incident, quite a serious incident involving a lot of people who I was involved with. I was there, and it just was like, this is fucking, someone's going to end up dead. You know, we're all going to end up locked up. So I just made the decision, and I remember getting up in the morning. So the 6th of Feb, the morning I got up, was on my mate's couch. I snapped my SIM card in half, threw it away, and I never fucking set a foot back in the place. And I haven't seen any. So these people that I was with daily, on a daily basis, I literally left them one night, and I've never seen them again since.
So when you say an incident happened, you mean it like kicked off at stupid levels and someone got hurt, or? So
they'd been. I'm having to be careful with what I say. Yeah. So they'd been. It started with an incident in a. This was a long time ago, where, and this was kind of when I knew how serious these people were. We were in a. There'd been an argument with some lads about football, and someone's girlfriend had got fucking slapped, or something had happened. It had kicked off. We'd ended up in a bit of a fight. These lads got a bit of a shoe-in. Off they went. Told us they were coming back the day after. Long story short is they came back in the day after and shot 4 of us. Not me, but the people I was with. Just, you know, and that was kind of the start of to-ing and fro-ing between some pretty serious incidents. And even at that point, although at that point it was the most scared, you know, I'm not, listen, what being involved with that world, as much as it was and as glamorous as it was, clarified for me that I am not a gangster. Yeah. And now did I want to be? I just wanted my mum when that happened. Because that, listen, and every, you know, I laugh now, and especially up here where I am, I see some of the young lads, and you know what I mean when I say plastic gangsters, you know, and I just think you haven't got a fucking clue. And that was me. And I was like involved in this, and it was so good and so glamorous, and so, you know, the respect that everyone commanded, and just being around these people. And listen, let me tell you, when people start shooting at you, that's when you know, mate. You either are, and there was lads that night that were, because they were running at the bullets as we were running away from the bullets. It wasn't enough to stop me, but it was kind of enough to know that it was serious and kind of start questioning things. And then as time went on, and there was more incidents with you know, the similar sorts of things happening, retaliations and this, that, the other, and that was kind of how things started to get dealt with. And I was like, this is just not for me.
Yeah, this is what I'm reading about at the minute. It's, I think every young guy, every guy wants to be aligned to something that have some form of purpose and some form of identification. And the easiest way often is with other crowds of lads that are searching for the same. So you end up in gangs, but at least you're aligned to something. You know, people go to war because
I wanted to be accepted. You know, I was quite badly bullied at school, and I've said this before. I've joked with my dad and say it's your fault because you left us. You know, my mum made us mad. And I wanted to be accepted, and I moved up through the kind of ranks of. So I moved to that area while I was still at school, and got in with the lads who were, you know, the lads who had a reputation and people were scared of them. And then I met other lads through them, and I jumped up a rank and then up again. And all these lads kind of grew up and got wives and kids and jobs, and I carried on and with the other lads, because the more kind of glamour of it, and it is a very, very glamorous life. You know, everything that goes with it, drugs, women, you know, fear, respect, all of that by association, not necessarily out of merit sometimes, you know, and it was very difficult to give up, but I kind of knew that, you know, of that crowd of people now, 2 are dead, 2 are locked up, 1's addicted to heroin. And I don't know what, because I obviously hear through the grapevine what's kind of been going on. What I didn't know is when I disappeared, my dad was still living in that area at the time. And I only found out, it's out years later, it was they turned up at the house on numerous occasions demanding to know where I was and basically saying to me, Dad, we'll burn your house down, we'll fucking kneecap you, we'll do this, that, the other, you don't tell us where he is. And he just stood his ground and said, we'll do what you've got to do, I don't tell you nothing. Because he didn't want me in, but, you know, he was protecting me. Yeah. I didn't realise that now. I didn't realise how fucking stupid he was. Anyway, nothing, you know, but again, I think the only reason nothing happened to me is because these guys knew me dad, they were my friends, you know, they used to come to my house. You know, they'd sit and have beers in the garden with my dad. They weren't strangers, they were, you know, but they were serious people, and they obviously didn't know, because literally, I wouldn't know what to say to them now, because nothing happened, we didn't fall out, it was just this incident, and obviously I just decided that was enough for me.
So for a young guy then who's got himself out of that mess, and there'll be like I said, there'll be lads watching this that might not know what their next move is or so on. How much of a role has A, business played in your life? Because I know you're a successful businessman now, and then B, like just putting yourself in a different group of gentlemen, so guys who are now, rather than insert to the things that we've talked about, now, you know, self-development, self-improvement, growing business, being better husbands, being better dads. So how important are those two things for you?
So the business thing for me was kind of a fluke in that. So I never set off to want to be in business. I was kind of unemployable because I would not turn up. So I would be unreliable. So I wouldn't turn up on a Monday. I wouldn't turn up on a Friday. The only person who would employ me at the time was my stepdad, who was a builder, which is where the transition went from electrician, which is what I was trained as from leaving school. I wasn't. I was pursuing law when I left school. I did A-level law, got a place at uni and rejected it because I'd found drugs and beer and women and fun. Went down the route of electrical and then couldn't basically hold the job down. So my stepdad took me on at his building company. What happened then was I set up. I was still selling drugs. So what happened then was I set up a business. I set up an electrical. I bought a van. I set up an electrical contractors. So for everyone else, to my mum, my dad, my brother, everyone that knew me, I would get up in the morning and go out to work in my work gear, and I would drive round to a pub that my mate owned, and I'd sit in the pub all day selling drugs. So the business was formed as a cover just to keep everyone off my back. And then someone would go, oh, can you just come and do this for me? And believe it or not, it just grew from that. So, and it all of a sudden became the fact that, you know, I could go out and do a couple, at the time it was like, I can go and do a couple of hours work and earn the same money in proper working this time. And you know, rather than going working for someone else, I can get up when I want, I can go and do a couple of hours. And then as I got busier, and started to kind of deliver, we were in more demand, and it just became, I suppose, and this goes back to the booze as well. So some people call it an addictive personality. I'm very much all or nothing. So when I kind of get my teeth stuck into something, so whether that be drugs, that was right. I was all in. Taking drugs, I was all in. Partying, I was all in. Yeah. So it's the same. Once I got this kind of bug for business, I was all in, and I was like, you know, there was no having to motivate me to get up in the morning and go to work. And then as he became busy enough, I took a member of staff on, and I was too tight to pay that member of staff to be late in bed. So I was like, I'm fucking picking you up at 8, I'm dropping you off at 5. That's it. And it literally, so me and that lad's still with me today, 16 years on. In fact, he's now my project manager. He's paid a hefty sum of money, you know, and we were both just young kids who like to go out and enjoy ourselves, and we just kind of go and do a bit of work for some people. And
there's something you said to me that I'll always remember you saying, because I picked your brains a little bit on the process of hiring staff, didn't I? And you said, Alex, you said, I'm too fucking nice. She said, I was only supposed to take on like one apprentice. I ended up taking on 5 because I just want to give these young lads a shot.
Yeah. And that's what happened. They come in and they go, oh yeah, I'm a fuckhead and I haven't done well at school, and I've been on drugs and I've got 2 kids. I'm like, oh, you've got a job, mate. Come on. You know, oh, mate, I've got to say this, but I've been to jail and no one will give me a chance. I was like, listen, you come work here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, that was me. And I'm still I've just done that. So I've just done the same thing again. So we had an electrical apprenticeship going, and There were 3 interviewed for one job. One was a useless fucker. The other one was the right guy for the job. And then there was this kid come bouncing in, and he was cheeky as fuck. And he made some smart ass remarks. And then he went, and Joanne was like, I know what you're going to say. She went, please tell me we're taking number 2 on. I was like, She was like, we're second them both on, aren't we? I was like, yeah. Because investing in people, and that's business and family. It's like a family. One of the customers said to me tonight, you're like a dysfunctional family. And we are, and that's, we are, the business for me has been something to throw myself into. And also, what happens with growth, I think, is it creeps up on you. So I went from me and Brownie in that van doing little bits of jobs to, 11 lads, premises, vans. And sometimes I have to, and I've really kind of, this is what I've learned most about what we do within our coaching program. And that is to kind of sit back and appreciate where you've come, how far you've come.
Yeah.
When I met my wife, I was still a drug addict. I was homeless. I was sleeping in a Ford Mondeo. It was an estate. And she used to joke. I used to run out of petrol and she'd bring me petrol. I'd ring her and say, I've run out of petrol again. Because in the winter, I used to have to start the engine, keep the engine running for like an hour to get it warm, and then try and get to sleep before it went fucking freezing. Yeah, and I'd be sleeping in my car in the pub car park, and the mum would bring me food out, and and so I went from that to where I am now. I own several. I own multiple properties. I own several vans. I've got premises. I've got I live not quite living in the house of my dreams, but it's not far off. I sent you the pictures. We've done it. We do the work, and I go, my kids don't want for anything. And so for me, it's been a success, and that's very much down to, what happened was, no one teaches you how to be a businessman. So you just heard how I progressed in business, right? So all my business lessons have come through fucking my mistakes and error. And there's been some costly. I've had businesses. I've invested in businesses thinking I was fucking Alan Sugar. Yeah. Businesses I know nothing about. Invested money in, invested time in, that have failed badly. And in 2017, when I tried to take over the world, because that my ultimate aim was to be the biggest, in our area, construction-wise and everything else. We've got these big premises. We've got all these. I got brand new vans for all the staff. Everything signed written up. It was all about the image and what people could see. And I was a big 2 fingers up to everybody. And I remember the accountant coming to see me in November in the 2017, and he was like, I thought, what's he doing here? And he was like, so I've done the books. He said, and you've turned over 1.3 million. I was like, not bad for a fucking fat crackhead, eh? And he was like, yeah, apart from you've spent 1.47 million. So you're now insolvent to the tune of £170,000. And I was like, okay, what now then? And he was like, no, you need to listen to what I'm saying. That's you finished. And I was like, what? I don't understand. He's like, the business is done. It's you're going bump. And people that say, well, you're a limited company. Don't worry, be a limited company, and don't worry, if anything goes wrong, just fold it. It's the biggest load of shit that I've ever heard. It doesn't mean anything. Limited liability. There were some things that were limited liability. A hefty VAT bill actually got wiped. But the top and bottom of it was most of the other stuff most of the other creditors, the account holders, to the tune of 80 grand, was signed. There was when you sign an account form at a wholesaler's, what you're actually signing is a personal guarantee. So when the insolvency practitioners came in, I was like, and my wife had always, because she knows I'm fucking airbrained, she knows I'm impulsive and I do mad shit, and she'd say, we pay, Kaz has got a really good job, she's really highly paid, and we pay her to everything. That's how we've always done it. We split the bills down the middle, and she was like, You do what you want to do with your business. Sure, Caroline won't have a clue if this business earns 10 grand or 100 grand. She won't have a clue. She just wants to know that at the end of the month, have you put your half into the bills? That's it. Right. So she used to say to me, you do whatever you want with your fucking harebrained schemes. Because I'd come home and I'm like, guess, listen to this business. And she was like, don't fucking tell me, I don't want to know. You're like, just promise me you'll never put this house at risk. What we've worked for all this time. And then there's a guy standing in front of me basically saying, yeah, the chances are they're going to come after your house if you don't sort it out.
So did the same business, did you save that business or did you go on and create something new?
So I bought that business back. But that was the point where I saw Paul's video.
Yeah, because I want to talk about this because I want to make sure we get time for this.
Yeah. So basically, what happened was, it was a horrendous. I decided I wasn't going to tell my wife till after Christmas because it was the right thing. I didn't want to spoil Christmas for them all. So from the beginning of November till January, I sat in the knowledge that we could potentially be losing everything. She was fucking spending money like it was going out of fashion on the kids. But I kept it to myself, and it created some real. It was the darkest point of my life, and then just Paul's video, as by fucking magic, just popped up, and then that was where the kind of upward trajectory went.
Yeah, let's give people a bit of context on the video. So Paul's our mentor, original mentor, Paul Moore, and Paul released a video that's had quite a few million views now, I think, of himself talking about times where he was that depressed where he wanted to jump off a cliff and kill himself, right?
Yeah, and for me, I wasn't. I'll tell you what happened. I wasn't suicidal in what everyone would understand as being suicidal. So the reason I was suicidal is because I thought, if I kill myself, then my wife and children will be financially okay. Because the debt dies with me. The house gets paid off. So I didn't want to kill myself. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to leave my family. I wasn't having dark thoughts like that. My thought process was, if I end it, then they'll be okay.
Yeah.
But it was all the other stuff that he said. So every other bit of that video, apart from the bit about not staying at the office because you don't want to see your kids, the bit about fucking, if you're thinking about going somewhere else, what do you think your wife's feeling? And I was like, what the fuck? And it was like he was in my head. And, a lot of people in that program had listened to people like Tony Robbins and knew what self-development was. And I was like, who the fuck is this? We joke about my being a technophobe. I didn't join Facebook till I joined Paul's Group. I don't even know what Facebook was. Still, my phone's a fucking look. My phone is a BlackBerry. Yeah, with a keyboard. Yeah. So I didn't know what any of it was, and I couldn't. It was like, and then when I met him, I went to the first thing, and he was fucking, and I was like, I wanted to rip his head off. For the first time he said cool story to me, I wanted to headbutt him. Yeah, because he triggered the fuck out of me. And then as I started to, and then I became obsessive with him then. So everything I was following him, and I was saying to everyone who knew, look at this, what he's saying here, look at this, see this, listen, doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that make, my dad and everyone was like, fucking fuck off, will you? Yeah, Kaz was like, I'm sick of hearing his fucking voice because every video but he was like he was in my fucking head. And then meeting you guys, and I've said this before, and I said this the other day about when the lads have called me out, and I said, I've surrounded myself with yes men all my life, people that went along with what I said, and if they didn't agree with me, I made them agree with me or forced them to agree with me, and that's how I got my way. Shout you down, yeah, and all of a sudden I'm in a room full of people that just call bullshit on you, and I'm like, what? Yourself and some really big, going in the past, Ben and Mark McPake and the lads who I'm like, I look at and think, fucking hell, these are lads that are, these are people to aspire. I was the person within our group that everyone looked up to, that everyone came to, that everyone, followed. And I never had that. And all of a sudden now I'm in a room with fucking 50 people like that who all fucking are better than me. And I don't mean that that's not like a self-pity thing. That's like, this thing of surround yourself. If you're in a room with 10 cokeheads, we know what happens. Yeah, you become the 11th cokehead. To be in a room with people like you and people like them other people I've just named, and everyone that's, a lot of, not everyone, but a lot of guys that are in there who is fucking inspiring. And I, again, same with the business, I didn't kind of see how far I'd come, and then all of a sudden people would be remarking on the way I was dealing with things. And the time I was, I'd spend any time with my fucking family. I was at work trying to grow, giving it it's all for you, this. Why are you at work again? Why have you got your phone walking up and down the beach on holiday on the phone fucking screaming at people? Yeah. Why are you doing it? Why do you think these holidays are fucking paid for? Yeah. Mate, the first time I left my phone at home on holiday, mate, anxiety through the roof.
Different game, mate. I think what I love about the group in Unstoppable and any like large mentoring group, I love chain of command. So I love there being a leader.
Yeah.
There being like, guys that have been in the program for a while who nurture the new guy coming through. And I love that. So, you're looking up and you're looking down and that's the best position to be. It's like being a brown belt and grappling with a black belt and a white belt. It's good. You get to do both the best. So I think that's one of the best things for me about being in a large group. It's a game changer. There's a lot of lads, dude, that haven't got that, haven't got any support, any good positive guidance in their life. And I think that's what a lot of
Do you know what? We watched me and Matt walked onto the beach one day when everyone was fucking running up and down, and I was like, how would you explain to anyone that you're not in a really sick fucking cult? You know what I mean? And it's like people like, oh, you're going doing your wrestling on South Shields Beach. Oh, you fucking going meditating, and I'm like, and then that's kind of really swayed because someone like me to be. So it was like my dirty little secret for 2 years, mate. No one knew about it. Yeah, no one knew about it. And when I started to open up about it, a friend of mine, we're on holiday, and a friend of mine was like, what's happened to Steve? Like, he's like the most calm, and he's this. And Cass was like, tell him about it, and tell him about you fucking meditating in the garden. And she was like, what? And this girl was particularly into it, and I was like, I do this and this. She was like, it's amazing. It's just fucking amazing. The Wim Hof stuff, I've had lads who would take the piss, who would then leave the group of people we were with and then ring me and go, any chance I come around and do the ice bath thing with you? Yeah. So we sat cross-legged in the garden doing fucking Wim Hof breathing in our fucking swimming trunks.
Man, yeah. Class, man. It's a different life. I know that. Dude, listen, we've got 1 minute to wrap this up, but here's what I want to do. Like, just to any guy struggling a little bit, and it doesn't have to be a similar situation. It doesn't have to be drugs or loads of booze or anything, but just somebody who's stuck, who's probably on their own, who's probably knows they're not getting the best out of themselves, who might be a bit depressed, might be a bit down, lost. Like, what advice would you give them? Go, from the back of everything you've been through, dude.
You've got to get in a group. You've got to get in any group. It doesn't matter who it is, and you've got to leave your ego. The ego is a big one. But you've got to get around people that are gonna. Everyone will fucking drag you down. A couple of big things for me. Turn the fucking news off. Yeah. Manage your time on social media. Manage your time between yourself and being at work. But you can only going to do that if you're accountable to people that are like, you just touched on it. My kids both train kickboxing, and I say to them, there's a couple of kids in there who are better, quite a lot better than them, who train every day. They're like, the sponsored fighters. And I'm like, when it comes to sparring, go and seek them out. You go and seek Stanley out. And she's like, and I'm like, if you go in there with the white belts, you're going to learn, you're going to kick their head in, but you're going to learn nothing. You've got to be, it's all right, like you say, being around them people. But that only makes you feel good short term. For me, you've got to fucking surround yourself with, I am so thankful to be, like I've just said, around people like yourself and Paul and a lot of them guys in there that, for me, I put up here on a pedestal because you smashed it, and that keeps me hungry for what I'm doing, and it keeps you accountable to a fucking level. And before you know it, your level is pretty fucking. And we see that, don't we? When the younger guys come in, the newer guys, not younger guys, come in the group. You're like, you can see, you're like, fucking. I remember when it triggers some people, and I'm like, we were like that once. Yeah, our level of training now, the level of repetition that we've done. But I'd have never done. I considered coming out of Unstoppable last year. It's not the thing to do. It's just not the thing to do because for that, and you've been very successful now with DX, and that's because you lead the fucking charge, and the guys are all holding each other accountable, and it matters. And you know, because you care about what other people, everyone cares about what other people think. Whatever you say, whatever anyone says, they care about it, and so you're holding if you've got no one to answer to, you're just gonna fucking, you know, even if it's actually misses and kids, it's fucking bullshit, really. You don't, you know, I step up most days because of who's watching me.
Steve Brock, we'll leave it there, my man, mate. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate your honesty, by the way. I'm sure people will listen to that, and like I can feel people's relief just go, fucking hell, someone's saying it how it is. So I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for.
I apologise for the tardiness again.
Worries, mate.
Very embarrassed.
Mate, you're the top man. Appreciate you, bro.
Take it easy.
Cheers, brother. Mate, you're the fucking